Hello there and welcome to the very latest edition of the official EFL Podcast. After a very fruitful trip back to a city he knows very well indeed, Mansfield Town boss Nigel Clough joins us as the Stags enjoy a mighty 17-game unbeaten run.
That's the thing we're most proud of. The result on Saturday was wonderful and everything, but it's a one-off game. But to start a season in all competitions and have a 17-game unbeaten run, albeit with a few draws in there, more than a few draws, that's something we're extremely proud of here.
My co-host this week is well and truly the man, Daniel Mann, one of Sky Sports' finest, and we hear from Hull boss Liam Rosenior, who gives us his footballing idol. Strap yourselves in, it's the official EFL Podcast. Okay then, welcome everybody as we go hurtling towards another championship weekend after another international break. I thought I'd bring someone on board who's yet to grace the official EFL Podcast, but he has been to World Cups, he's been to European Championships, he's seen the Premier League off, and he does an absolutely stellar job on our EFL coverage on Sky Sports. It is Daniel Mann. Hello, my friend.
Good morning, or hello, I should say.
Sorry,
do you want to start again? Because that destroys the timing element of it, doesn't it?
No, we can leave this in, mate. It's absolutely fine. Given it's your first one, and don't worry, we are going to leave this in. Given it's your first one, it's fine. It's okay. If I had to start again on my debut, I wouldn't be sat here talking to you about football, mate, 20 odd years later. Because inevitably that first pass went to the wrong player. You get the analogy. Anyway, Daniel Mann, how are you?
I'm absolutely tippity top.
I'm correct, and I'm okay in saying veteran of World Cups and European Championships and football all across the world. Of course, our focus right here is on the EFL, but my word, you've covered a broad spectrum, haven't you?
Well, yeah, I think I've done 4 World Cups. I've done every domestic and major European competition, final of each as well. So pretty much everywhere, yeah. In however long, and don't remind me how long I've been doing this.
No, well, obviously, given the age that you're at, you started at 4. So, I mean, you were the world's first toddler commentator. And if you're listening to this, you'll hear a very crisp sound coming from Daniel Mann's mouth. If you're watching it, you'll realise that he's using a lip mic, which these are the absolute fundamentals for any commentating setup at the Dome.
I love all the latest technology, as you can see.
Wow, that fun.
So... yeah, I keep up with things, and I use a lip mic designed by the BBC in the 1920s just to keep it real, essentially.
Yes, I mean, often replicated but never bettered. Let's crack on, my friend. We're going to mix this up this week. We've got obviously lots to talk about in each and every division, but we're going to start in League 2. And in League 2, myself and your very good self had the opportunity to watch a cracking game of football on Saturday lunchtime at Meadow Lane. You were there, over 17,000 fans for Notts County against Mansfield. We had Notts County top of the league going into this one. We had Mansfield Town unbeaten, the only team left in English football unbeaten. So tell me, what happened?
Well, I think we witnessed, certainly I witnessed, probably the most accomplished away performance I've seen from any team this season. I know Nigel Clough was a little concerned in the first 10 minutes or so, and obviously they fell behind. But they had a plan. They executed it absolutely perfectly. The little things that Nigel Clough, I think, was looking for that he hasn't seen this season were there as well. A couple of goals from set pieces. He's wanted a return there. He's wanted the goals to be shared around. So you have your 2 centre-backs scoring, you have your holding midfielder in Lewis Reed scoring, and you have your striker scoring in Lucas Akins. So just about everything went right for Mansfield, I think. And it's a bit of a statement. They've come through a tough run. They've come through it unbeaten. Then they go to the league leaders and win in that fashion. This gives us a pretty good picture of where Mansfield Town are going to be, and it looks like they're going to be right up there during the course of the season. I think on the flip side, you saw some of the issues that Notts County are clearly experiencing. They will not get promotion if they continue to concede goals at the rate they're doing. Surely not. And they have had these issues throughout the campaign so far, and Mansfield have certainly shown how those issues can be exploited to the full. So it's a lesson for Notts as they go into a run where they're playing lots of teams up at the top end of the table as well. So plenty to draw from it from Luke Williams, and I'm sure he will, and I'm sure we'll see Notts bounce back in due course.
It's a very good point in the sense of Notts County is second in League Two. They've conceded the third most goals. You've also got Wrexham up there. They've conceded 25 goals. That's almost 2 per game. Defeat for Notts meant that Stockport could climb to the summit. As you said, Mansfield in third. Elsewhere, we saw Joe Murphy subbed on for Tranmere. 42 years old. He's that old that I played with him a very, very, very long time ago, and against him a very, very long time ago. Who'd have thunk it?
Well, the first game I ever covered, he was playing as a 19-year-old at Prenton Park against Walsall, funnily enough. He made his debut earlier that season, would you believe, against Manchester City.
Wow, was it?
And Dave Challoner, we mentioned Stockport, obviously he was in the side as well. And then you may remember his first touch in the Premier League, he came on as a substitute when Russell Holt was sent off at Anfield. And with his first touch in Premier League football, he saved a penalty from Michael Owen at the Anfield Road end. And it was actually one of my very first commentaries as well. So we sort of tracked each other. But so I covered Tranmere while Joe was there, and he's obviously a great character to take on that challenge as a 19-year-old when Tranmere were at the same time reaching a major cup final. They played Leicester in the League Cup that season. They were battling down towards the bottom of the table for a couple of years as well, and he took on that challenge with alacrity. He's a great character. He's obviously a mentor for the goalkeepers as well. And although it was not obviously the best circumstances to come into the fray in league football at 42 at the weekend, it's testament to what a great individual he has been.
And I think as well, I mean, just as an aside to our younger listeners, it was a Manchester City side that was a world away from what it is today, wasn't it?
Well, the names, I mean, you can look at the names and you're talking Andy Morrison, Kevin Horlock, people like that, who great professionals at a certain level, whereas now it's a little different. I mean, if they went to Prenton Park now, you wouldn't expect it to finish 1-1, would you?
No, you wouldn't. Yes, it would be a very, very different, playing demographic, watching demographic. I mean, the mind boggles at that. Gillingham, that's another one that jumped out to me with Neil Harris, of course, moving on. He's been on the pod before. We thought he was very, very harshly done by Keith Millen, subsequently filling in and getting sent off, which I thought looked like a fair enough challenge. But obviously, when you remember, he wasn't actually on the pitch at the time, so maybe that's where the discrepancy comes in. And another manager that has been moved on is Graham Alexander at MK Dons, who the MK Dons at 92 minutes were still ahead in their game at the weekend. But come the end of the game, they'd lost. He was very, very vocal with what he'd seen. He then moves on, and after quite a bright start this season from both MK Dons and Gillingham, that's tailed off somewhat, and we've seen managers move on.
I watched MK Dons actually on the opening day at Wrexham, which was obviously quite a significant occasion, and they looked absolutely electric. And I thought, hello, this is the team that looked like it's going to carry all before them in this division. When you had Jonathan Liko Maisa up front and the solid citizens in there behind them, you expected them to be right in there. They've certainly got the potential to do that. And we've seen Barrow make life difficult for a lot of teams this season. I mean, they held Notts County the other week as well. So whether you draw firm conclusions from that, but I certainly expected MK to be higher. It's going to be interesting to see how Mike Williamson fares, having done an absolutely outstanding job at Gateshead, not just in terms of their exploits on the pitch and winning promotion and getting to the FA Trophy final, but also the way he's gone about it. He's been a good nurturer of some of the talent he's had on loan there as well, and lots of clubs have benefited from that too. I expect better from MK as the season progresses, and I would imagine with the tools they've got that they will get back on track.
Must do better is the name of the game from Daniel Mann. Let's move into League One. Standout performance, goal, however you want to put it. A former teammate of mine, Michael Morrison. To use the phrase "can do better," I don't think he will ever do any better than the goal that he scored.
Maradona.
Maradona beating everybody that was there to be beaten in opposition colours, his colours, fans' colours. It was one of those where when you're a commentator and you're seeing that take shape, and if you haven't seen it, please get yourself onto YouTube or whichever highlights package you watch and go and see it. Is there a feeling as a commentator when it's building up? Because it's commentary, you will tell me, you know way better than me, Dan, is about delivery, it's about the cadence, it's about the rhythm at which you're talking, but you love football, so you must be watching that thinking, it's going to do it, what do I do, how do I go?
I had a slightly similar experience when, in a pre-season friendly this year, when Ezri Konsa sort of brought the ball from, I think, the edge of his own penalty area to the edge of the Brentford penalty area and smashed it into the top corner. I'm thinking, where is this run going to end? I think one of my bugbears, and I'm possibly alone in this, but one of the things that I don't like as a commentator is when someone gets the ball and they move with it and the commentator says, still so-and-so. I think in this case is a justifiable exception because it is so mind-boggling. I mean, you'll know better than me, David, but I'm not sure I've ever seen Michael run that far.
I think he would admit himself that would be the case as well. Very, very much the man for an economy of movement.
Yes, which has summed up a few careers, and certainly mine in my lifestyle in general, I think.
A wonder goal. If you get a chance to see it, it's a thing of absolute beauty. Okay, Dan, I'll tell you who else is looking pretty good, and you will know this, of course. Blackpool, currently sitting 7th in League One, a point behind Bolton. They have played a game more. They beat Stevenage 3-0 at the weekend. As an aside for Stevenage, that's the third time in 4 they've conceded 3 goals. Jordan Rhodes on the score sheet. Neil Critchley and Blackpool has historically had a good fit. Now, he moved on to pastures new, and as fans, Blackpool fans, you can hold that against him. You can be a little bit miffed with that. But if he keeps on doing what he's done so far, gets them back into the playoffs, gets them back into the Championship, akin to a Nathan Jones returning and leading them to glory, there's certain similarities out there.
Absolutely. I mean, I think there are, certain partnerships that work, and it looks like Neil Critchley and Blackpool is one of them. I mean, he wanted to pursue his ambitions. He had ambitions of coaching, and obviously pursued those with Steven Gerrard at Aston Villa and went to Queen's Park Rangers as well. He wanted to challenge himself, but he's got a challenge at Blackpool, and it's a very big one. And I think, with the tools he has at his disposal, he's got a terrific chance. I mean, you mentioned Jordan Rhodes there. I mean, the ace goal scorer. And we've seen once again this season just a myriad of different types of goals. The right decision, the right place, the right time, all the cliches you want to throw at it. Even sometimes he's just in the right place for the ball to hit him, as was the case at the weekend, and run off in jubilation. It's all part of
it.
Absolutely. Well, it's all part of the goal scorer's creed, isn't it? Any sort of touch, and that's mine. And he epitomises that. And yes, you have to get beyond the sort of, if it's not too strong a phrase, the sense of betrayal that will be there amongst the supporters, whether justified or not. But as you say, if the results come on the pitch, that will soon be forgotten, and they are doing at the moment. Yeah,
absolutely the best way to win. Around, of course, a faction that may be slightly jury's out on what Neil did with regards to moving on. He's talked about it in the sense of not doing it in the right way. He's spoken about the owner welcoming back with open arms, which suggests right now, obviously subject to change as is football, everything in that garden is particularly rosy. Right now, the Championship is back this weekend. It seems like we've said this so many times already this season, and there's another break coming in a few games' time. So, anyway, there's some really standout points to get stuck into, Dan. It's officially Wayne's World at Birmingham City, isn't it?
Excellent.
Excellent. Not so much for John Eustace, of course. No. And he released a very emotive statement, given his ties to the football club, his ties to the city itself, the part of the city itself that he's come from. Firstly, before we get stuck into Wayne, just your thoughts on John being moved on.
Well, it's impossible not to feel sad for John, who did a terrific job. I mean, you've got to remember this football club was essentially broken, and he's done a great job in reconnecting the supporters with the team, and the team has started to move in an extremely positive direction. I was there for the West Bromwich Albion game where they won controversially, admittedly, but in the end they won well, and there was a sense of emotion in John's celebrations when the third goal went in. Terrific free kick from Gary Gardner. That it's very easy in hindsight to say that it was clear that something was afoot, but there was an outpouring of emotion that probably seemed to go beyond a derby win.
Akin to him knowing what his fate was?
I wouldn't be surprised if that was the case.
Okay.
If he picked up on it, because obviously this has not come absolutely out of nowhere.
No,
there's been a sense that they were interested, and I think the club kind of glossed over this by suggesting that John had been linked with what wasn't actually a vacancy at the time at Rangers. But I think time will look extremely favourably on the job John Eustace has done. The obvious parallel that people are drawing, and it's one to be wary of and one to flag up, is the point that Birmingham were at under Gary Rowett, under the previous owners, and obviously Gianfranco Zola's arrival, and that essentially heralded the decline. I mean, we can't say that Birmingham would necessarily have gone on and got promoted, but they were certainly in a position to mount a very strong playoff challenge. So it remains to be seen. I mean, Wayne has excelled in one of the toughest jobs in football, so we know he's got the minerals, if you like, as we would expect him to have. And what's notable is, as at Derby, he is a delegator, and he's brought in a lot of coaching talent to help him. A lot of big names as well.
Stellar footballing talent.
Absolutely.
Years gone by. My word.
So he knows, I suppose, if you want to use the phrase, his limitations, if you like. He knows. Well, let's put it in a kind of way. He knows what his strengths are, and so he's brought in people to help him with that, as Liam Rossini and Justin Walker did so well at Derby, and so he's aware of that. He will have the character to motivate and inspire. There's absolutely no question about that, and clearly, it has the potential to be a recipe for great success for Birmingham City if they all can get it right. But the takeaway from it is that John Eustace has been extremely harshly treated, and I hope that very soon he shows that is the case and he's back in the game.
There was a very big but there, because he comes into the club, doesn't he, Wayne Rooney, with Birmingham in 6th, and they talk about ambition, they talk about alignment of where this club wants to go. So is it too straight a line? Is it too simplistic a notion that for me to ask you, well, if they want to do better than 6th, then promotion, then the Premier League is their port of call for next season? Is that too simplistic a statement now?
Ambition is one thing. It's having the plan to achieve it, and having something that is sustainable and something that has some thought behind it. I'm not, and I'm certainly not suggesting that isn't the case. They have a lot of grand plans around club infrastructure and things like that. I suspect, given the situation at St Andrews, that they will at some point seek to look for a new home as well, if that's possible to do so. So they do have plenty of thoughts and ideas in place, but we know from the position they're in how difficult that is going to be to achieve a short-term basis. So it's very easy to say we want A, we want B, we want C, but it's often a longer route to get there.
Speaking of long routes, and your teeing me up of segues is seamless, and I thank you profusely for that. Sheffield Wednesday, winless, 3 points on the board so far. Cut adrift, 7 points away from safety. They've made a change. Cisco Munoz has moved on. Danny Röhl,
yeah,
Röhl,
roughly,
which is brilliant because it makes it sound like you're from Hull. Röhl, you want to Röhl with that? And I'd say that being from Hull, so it's fine if you're listening from Hull. I'm not taking the mickey. He's come in at Sheffield Wednesday. He's been an assistant at Leipzig, Southampton, Bayern Munich, and the German national team. It's his first managerial role for Röhl.
It's a shame,
So happy I am with that. What do we know, Dan? Anything? Nothing? What can we expect?
Well, he's had a terrific apprenticeship. I must say that it can't go much worse than what he's experienced recently with Hansi Flick. And I've been covering Germany's games this year. And if ever there was a team without a rudder, it was them. Every tactical idea seemed to be implemented rather half-heartedly, and there was a sense that every occasion seemed to be somewhat doom-laden every time they walked onto the field this year.
Never the best way to set up for a sporting event, is it?
Absolutely, and obviously the dirty washing has been aired in public with the documentary about their World Cup experience, which was not a happy one. Again, one that I saw pretty close up as well. I mean, I think there's a sense that he can't really lose. I don't think his reputation in Germany is going to be seriously affected by what happens at Sheffield Wednesday. We know the club is in a less than perfect situation, and really have been for some considerable time in a very difficult space. And you look, I mean, who knows? Could he be another Wagner or Farke? That's the question people are asking. He's certainly got the coaching credentials. And the ultimate question is, do Sheffield Wednesday have the quality to do it in the Championship? And that will be the ultimate reason why they succeed or fail.
And his first game in charge is Watford away, which, as we know, can be a mixed bag. So we'll see what happens there. I think Wednesday fans would just be plainly thinking, "Real on the weekend. Let's see what we've got." Now, Dan, sorry, that's two horrendous puns. I'm going to give you a nice little break now, a little half-time pause in this podcast. You've been wonderful so far. I didn't think it'd be any different. And continuing our special features for Black History Month, we've got Hull City boss Liam Rosenior telling us all about his footballing idol.
Hi, my name's Liam Rosenior. I'm currently manager of Hull City Football Club, and this is my black football icon. My first memory of my dad on a football pitch was when I was a young boy at West Ham. It was amazing back then. John Lyle was the manager, and every home game my dad would take me and my brother Darren when I was about 4 or 5 years old to Upton Park, and he would allow us to warm up with the players in the dressing room like 10 minutes before the game, and then we'd go upstairs with my mum and watch my dad play in what was Division 1 back then because he's so old, and I used to watch him score goals at the old Upton Park, and it gave me a lot of great memories and a lot of inspiration to do it myself. What made my dad so special was he played at a time when there was a lot of racism in the game, and he was one of many black players who faced racial abuse on a weekly level when they were playing games, bananas, taunts, chants, but he had the self-perseverance and the confidence to keep going and break down the pathways for the next generation, which includes myself. I was so proud of him watching him play for Bristol City, for West Ham, for Fulham, and watching your dad play football in front of 20, 30,000 people every week when a lot of those people are against you for the colour of your skin gives you a lot of motivation and inspiration. My dad had a huge impact on my career, one because he was my dad and he did something in terms of playing football and managing that I always wanted to do, but also he always gave me confidence and belief in myself that I could do it if I worked hard enough, and that's something I'll always be thankful for. The best advice my dad gave me was to be myself, to be true to myself and to believe in myself, not to listen to outside noise, not to worry what people think, and just enjoy doing what I do. And that's something I try and take into not just my own career, but now I'm influencing young players and players who I'm manager of. I keep saying those same things to them. My greatest football memory of my dad was I was a mascot. Bristol City played Brentford at home, and he surprised me and my brother by making us mascot and taking us out on the pitch. It was actually one of the last games he played of his career, and he ended up scoring a hat-trick that day. So I was obviously, me and Darren, my brother, were lucky mascots for him, and that was one of the best days of my young life. A message from my dad: thank you, firstly for being a great dad, and secondly for, giving me the confidence and inspiration to be where I am now. So without you, I wouldn't be here, for one, and for two, I wouldn't be doing something I absolutely love to do. So that's why you're my idol.
So a big thank you to the lovely Liam Rosenior there, keeping it a family affair with his footballing idol. Now, joining us on the official EFL podcast. You've heard from Daniel Mann. He's been superb so far. A man who had a very good weekend, of course, is Nigel Clough, the Mansfield Town boss. Went to Notts County, came back with all 3 points, having scored 4 goals and putting firmly to bed some frustrating draws. But 17 games unbeaten. You must be ecstatic, Nigel.
That's the thing we're most proud of. The result on Saturday was wonderful and everything, but it's a one-off game. But to start a season in all competitions and have a 17-game unbeaten run, albeit with a few draws in there, more than a few draws, that's something we're extremely proud of here.
And given what you've seen so far from your side, given where you are in the league, inward expectations, are they meeting outward expectations? Because having been in the game for as long as you have, I'm sure you realise about keeping supporters tempered. Get excited, but let's kind of stay on the straight and narrow and get to where we need to be.
And let's realise what the date is as well. We're mid-October. No prizes, no medals for mid-October. We've had a good start, and we're not going to get carried away with a victory at Notts or otherwise. We've got 6-7 months very much hard work to do and able to maintain the position of where we are in the league. That's what we're aiming to do. Looking forward to getting 2 or 3 players back in the next few weeks, which will help us from injury. Important players, Rhys Oates and Stephen Quinn and Stephen McLaughlin not far away. And then we think we've got a squad to compete.
It was certainly a game that we both enjoyed, wasn't it, Dan? Because Dan was on site at Meadow Lane. I was unfortunately back in West London taking in the game. But it was one we'd spoken earlier on in the podcast, Dan, which was just an utter joy to cover, wasn't it?
Yeah, great occasion. Great start for Notts, not so for Nigel. But the response, Nigel, I felt the response after that was pretty much everything you could have wished for, wasn't it? Pretty perfect.
After the first 10 minutes, I thought we regained our composure. The atmosphere, the occasion, everything possibly got to us. Notts started incredibly well. Got the early goal, and it's difficult to come back from it. But we talk to the players a lot. When you do concede, don't concede that second goal. Stay in the game. We've got 80, 90 minutes to get back into it. And we worked our way back into it and got a hold of the game, especially after half time. But it was unusual for us because it's the lowest possession we've had in any game this season, only having, I think, 34%. And we said to the players, it's not always the amount sometimes, it's what you do with that possession. And I thought with the 34% we had, we were a danger and a threat all afternoon.
And of course, spreading the goals around is key, isn't it? We heard from Aidan Flint after the game, the fact that he hadn't scored as many goals as you'd like him to, and Cargill obviously next to him. I mean, they are... There's a way of describing big centre halves of yesteryear, which would probably get me into trouble on here because it involves some bad language. But in the sense of what they bring to the side and what they look like. I mean, you talk about a team that wants to dominate possession, but you're also very, very firmly based in the fundamentals. But if your 2 big fellas can get in the opposition 6-yard box and score goals, the more the merrier.
Definitely, and that's the balance. When you're in League Two, you have to deal with the aerial threat because it is. It's there just about every game, and then you've got to use it in both penalty areas. But also we want to play football as well, and that's why I thought we got the balance right on Saturday. And the way we pressed, the work rate was exceptional. That was the other thing. Apart from the result, that was the thing that pleased us most. Our running stats were through the roof on Saturday, which is unusual for an early kickoff, because normally you get that on night games when everybody's buzzing and everything under the floodlights. But it's difficult sometimes to do it with a 12:30 or a 3 o'clock kickoff. So it was probably the thing that pleased us most after the result.
Was there a sense, because I know you're one of the best teams at keeping the ball in the division, was there a sense on Saturday that it had to be a different sort of battle from your point of view, given Notts' strength in that area?
Yeah, I think so. I think that's why we sort of went pressing high, because once they get into their stride and a rhythm, then they're very difficult and to deal with. So we were hoping we wouldn't have more of the ball. I thought we would have more of the ball, but we gave it away cheaply at times. But you can't complain too much when the result is as it was, and the shots and everything, to have another 21 shots away from home. Another very, very pleasing aspect of the performance. And Christy Pym was a spectator largely in the second half and hardly touched the ball, which is, for a home side that can dominate as much as Notts, I think that says an awful lot about how well the lads pressed.
You mentioned the time of year that we're talking, of course, and if you look at the league with Stockport top, Notts second, Mansfield third, Crewe, Wrexham, Swindon, down to Gillingham. All very close. I think it would be safe to say that given the last couple of seasons with regards to various documentaries, various attention being paid to different football clubs, Mansfield Town, playoff final in 22, missing out on a single goal in 23. Does it give you a sense of not necessarily operating under the radar, but the light's shining over there, we can quietly get about with our work?
Yeah, we don't necessarily feel that, although I think we are one of the few clubs without a documentary at the moment. So
we can put that right if you want.
Harm.
Yeah, come on, we'll get me down there.
We're absolutely fine. Any documentary makers watching, we're absolutely fine where we are. Thanks very much. We're okay working as we do. No, we don't need any publicity or anything like that. There is, we've got no distractions like that. And it's something that we've said to the players in the summer, this is it now. We were hoping not to have any sort of another injury hit season. Last season, the second half, we were 10, 11, 12 out every week. We didn't want that. We've got 6 at the moment. We say only 6.
That's a luxury, isn't it, when you've had 11?
It is, yeah. And you looked at it on those terms and you say, well, I tell you what, it's not too bad only having 6 out. And we've got a squad in place. We think we can cope with 4 or 5, 6 injuries. I don't think any squad in the country can cope with 10, 11. So we're better equipped all over, I think. And the experiences of the last 2 seasons will definitely stand us in good stead for this season.
What do you think of the level of the division this season? Has it gone up significantly?
Yes, definitely. I think that the quality of the sides are coming into the league. We've got Forest Green on Saturday, and every report we've had, I think the second, third from bottom, is they're a good team and they're nowhere near. But it's the strength of the league, I think, which has put them where they are at the moment, not necessarily on their merits, because they're much better than that. You've got Wrexham and Notts coming into the league from the conference. I don't think you've ever had 2 stronger teams entering League Two, not just to come and survive. Most promoted teams will say, well, we'll consolidate and we'll survive. These 2 are trying to get straight out of the league, and rightly so. And then you've got the teams coming down, Accrington will be up there and so on. There's only Forest Green, really, and Morecambe are thereabouts. There's only Forest Green, really, that have started struggling of the 6 teams that have come in. Stockport after last season are going to be strong once they got off the playoff hangover. So it is an incredible league, and that's why it's so tight. Everybody beats everybody.
25 years in, Nigel, if my maths are correct, with regards to being a boss. Obviously, started off as a player coach. I joked before you came, before we started recording, that the lot of a manager. I mean, it used to be 24/7. Now it's about 27/10, isn't it? Because we can get you on Zoom. We can find you wherever you are. We can, ask nicely. You can always say no, but knowing the fella that you are, I knew would be all right. It's a substantial amount of time, more than a substantial amount of time. There's nearly 1,500 games there by my reckoning. Sat here talking to me and Dan. Obviously, that's one of the perks.
Yeah,
he says, don't you, Jim?
Of the 25 years.
Yeah. It's like the worst "this is your life" ever. You've got me and Dan. You can see the look on your face and listening to you after the game on Saturday. Does it ever change? Does that sense of boxing off the weekend with 3 points, does that feel better now? Is there a different perspective to it as a manager that's been in it a long time, off the back of a stellar playing career, I hasten to add? What does winning feel like now to you?
Just as good. Just as good. And not losing is the first one, which is hopefully why we've gone the 17 games. The losing is what drains your confidence and demoralises you. Coach, staff, managers, teams, everything. So even when there's some draws in there, it keeps the momentum going. And I don't think if we'd have lost one of the games the week previously, we had the 3 draws, 2 home draws, 2 0-0s against Wrexham and Wimbledon, 2 good games. But if we'd have lost one of those 1-0, which could have done easily, then I don't think we get the result at Notts that we got. But the maintaining the confidence and the momentum from the draws and not losing means you're not far off a performance like we saw on Saturday. But it's still the ultimate, that's it, the week. Everything is to do with the game, whether it's Tuesday, Saturday, whatever. Total focus on that. And when you get the point or 3, job done. And the feeling, it's a good feeling for a few days. Because then you've got another one round the corner. We've got Saturday, Tuesday, Saturday coming up. We're playing the Carabao Cup. We're playing the FA Cup coming up. We've got the EFL Trophy. We've got the league. All within, I think we've got 8 games in the next 24 days starting Saturday.
That sense of, it goes hand in hand. We're talking about an unbeaten team, therefore you're in absolutely everything still out, which is the wonderful part about it. And just obviously, then there's Wrexham coming up in the FA Cup, familiarity possibly breeding contempt. Just touching on that time as a manager, do you have former player? Because we spoke to John Mousinho last week. He was very much on the first step of his managerial journey, wherever that may take him. Do you get former players of yours? Do you get peers, colleagues? Is there a fraternal kind of conversation between former players that come to you and ask for your advice? Is there anyone that seeks it out? Do you go out of your way to make sure that former players that are in jobs are okay and touching base?
Yeah, of course. I never understand why managers get antagonistic towards each other when you're all in the same sort of job, and you have the same understanding of how difficult it is. We compete against each other and want to win. But outside of that, then there should be that sort of fraternal relationship. And the other thing is where fellow managers, go and try and get somebody out of a job when they're in a job. I think that's a very unsavoury part of it as well, whether it's agents or somebody ringing up, my man can come and do this or whatever. I don't like that side of the game at all. But yeah, certainly young managers, we've got a lad who used to play for us at Burton called John McGrath, who's at Mickleover, the team, non-league team, and he's been there a few years now, but they've had a fantastic start, top of the league. I think they've won all the games. I had a chat with him last week and the week before. John Mousinho bumped into a couple of times as well, just starting out. He was a brilliant lad, and will go on, I think, to make a very good coach and manager. But even talking to Luke Williams after the game on Saturday, it was fascinating, some of his experiences. He was talking about the young offenders that he'd been coaching and everything, and that's on a whole different level there of what he did there, and what a brilliant life experience.
How does management will obviously have had its changes in 25 years. I don't know, but how does management change you in 25 years?
I don't know. You'd have to ask my wife and family. It doesn't get.
It's funny you should say that, Nigel, because about to log on. No.
Yeah. Oh God. Yeah. I don't think she doesn't want it to go on too much longer. Let's put it that way. So jumping on the back of Dan's point there, with regard, because we're all in it. It's in your bones. It's in your blood. It's hard to give that foresight and say I want to stop there, but it seems to be different in a manager's life, doesn't it, Dan? We've seen it so many times where you can see a manager get another job and keep going. Some come out of it and think that's it, I'm done. Is there an end game for you, Nigel? Is there a sense when you think at that stage that is now time to put my feet up, bit of sun on my back, and enjoy other things instead of people like us pestering you, being pestered by every single person at a football club? Yeah, no, there's no time on it at the moment. No, just keep going. It'd be lovely to be able to choose like that, and I think maybe the top managers can, but most of us aren't in that position. I think the decision will be made for us almost when you get to the stage when you can't get another job. That'll be the time when it will naturally come to an end, when nobody's interested in employing you. But I think not having a family and everything, and the stability and to go back to, I can't imagine doing it without that. Certainly, not to go home to on a Saturday, win, lose or draw. That is an absolute rock that you need. Or people are different. Certainly that I need to enable me to do the job.
Knowing how encyclopedic Daniel Mann is with his job. A big part of that is, I'm just happy that I got the word encyclopedic out without melting my computer.
Can you spell it?
It's got anyway. We just hastily Googled encyclopedic. Dan, your approach as a commentator, speaking to managers, and our lot at Sky Sports are fantastic, and I love them all to pieces. I've as an ex-player, there is that little bit of front/bravado where you think, I can go and talk to Nigel Clough, I can go and ask him for his team, which in very small occasions you've been wonderfully helpful with me in the past, Nigel, because I've always been very wary of bugging you too much before a match. But from a commentator's point of view, Daniel, do you think, right, I've got Nigel Clough's team at the weekend, I'm covering the club. What's your approach as a commentator?
Very careful. No, I mean... my myself and Nigel spoke before the game on Thursday, so very grateful for having the time. Well, we try to speak to everybody, because ultimately, we want to avoid, if at all possible, talking rubbish about what the team does and what their approach is. So that's the basic reason. We want to try and make it as accurate as we possibly can. The approach is, I hope that managers don't get the impression that we're trying to get stuff out of them that they don't want to be out there, and also that we're just trying to shine a light on the very good work that's happening across the EFL, really. And that's the approach. That's what we want to do, because we are a window, if you like, to that world, and that's what we want to achieve.
Yeah, it's important. We understand you need a little insight into it as well. The Premier League clubs and the big clubs you read about every single day in the news and everything. But for the League One and League Two clubs, there's a lot of good work, like you say, goes on that people aren't aware of. So it's never a problem for that insight, to have a 10-minute chat before a game. That's a bit different with you, Prutts, but no problem talking to Dan.
Set myself up for that, didn't I? Set myself up for that. Ugh. I'm just going to pester you now, just for the sake of it, from here on in for the rest of the season. You mentioned it's a hell of a busy period that's coming up. From a kind of logistics point of view, from a training point of view, is it game recovery, and then to keep the lads that are in and out of the team ticking over? I presume that it's maybe more intricate than that.
No, that's it, even at this stage of the season, when we have so many. 3 league games next week, Saturday, Tuesday, Saturday. And then we're into the last 16, the Carabao Cup at home to Port Vale, and then Wrexham on the Saturday after that. So it's a big 5 games. You could be in or out of the 2 major cup competitions within 4 days. We want to stay in them if we can, and stay there or thereabouts in the league. So, and it's exactly that, looking ahead. And it's more about the lads who are playing week in, week out, look after themselves. You know that. It's then the sort of 6, 7, or whatever, just outside. We've got a reserve game this afternoon. We're playing Derby under 21s or something. So 5 of the subs will have a run out in that, maybe just 70 minutes, just to keep them ticking over. I know a lot of the players at the top now don't play games, even they don't play reserve games or whatever. And they go like a month, 2 months, and haven't actually had any game time. I don't know, we were always brought up, you need that game. It's different to training. It's a different sort of fitness. That's why all the pre-season you do, as soon as you play your first game pre-season, you're breathing out what as well. You can't, because you can't replicate
it.
No, you can't. You know that as a professional footballer. So we like the lads to keep ticking over and keep playing. And the EFL Trophy game last week against Doncaster was perfect for that. We got a few 90 minutes under the belt, and the rest of the lads, or some of the lads, got a rest, which helped them for Notts County.
Is it the all-seeing eye approach, Nigel, from you? Are you a good delegator? Have you got to the stage where you're comfortable with putting people in place to report back?
Yeah, definitely. It's not. I'll try and get just for my own sort of point of view. I want to see the players, see who's doing it or whatever. But in terms of work with the same staff for 20 odd years, so it's not a problem. And the other thing very important is to get away from the place for a few days every now and again. Just get away for a couple of nights somewhere. And leave the lads in charge. Got no problem with that, because I think I need a break, certainly, and they need a break from me, as importantly. So I think that's a part that you learn as well when you've been in it a few years. We always did it. My dad always did it. Yeah. I was telling him a story. My son was watching something old Forest game on YouTube in 1978. He said, and you won't remember that obviously, but when Forest were a very, very good team, and they were playing Ipswich, Bobby Robson's team. And the commentator said that all 4 domestic trophies had been won by the 2 clubs in that year. So they had a photo of the trophies. And then it said, and Peter Taylor is taking the team tonight because Brian Clough has taken his family on holiday to Spain. And I think this was February half term. Yeah, and he left Peter in charge. And I remember, Simon remembered, my brother, I didn't remember so much. And it said, but Forest are in the midst of a good run at the moment, having lost once in the last 55 games.
And if that doesn't deserve a holiday,
that's a run. Having lost once in 55 games, and they beat Ipswich, that was 1 in 56. So he, even in the midst of that, he still felt it necessary to. We went off. I think we just got Torremolinos in the February half time.
Well, I mean that was the original Invincibles, wasn't it? A Nottingham Forest side that conquered everything and everybody. It was and having, just as a very small aside, Nigel, having kind of walked corridors that you have, and the fact that you had the chance as a schoolboy, as I did, to join full time. The sense of history made that place what it was. Some managers have coped in different ways. Some managers haven't coped so well. You look at what Steve Cooper's done and embraced that, spoken to the men that were there at the time. Yeah. They're all still relatively local. God bless them, some have moved on. But the reason people know about that football club is because of that golden period, isn't it? And that it just goes to show that when you talk about management and how people went about it, there was room for individuality, wasn't there?
Oh, definitely. Yeah, definitely. But I never get why Emery wouldn't embrace it. You know, why it was a problem and why they would sort of go against it, almost against the history of the club, and say it was more of a problem. Embrace it, because that's one of the main reasons why the City Ground is getting 30,000 people every week and creating the atmosphere that it does.
There's just to round it off, when you talk about international breaks and getting away. I know we're coming off the back of an international break. Yeah. It never stops, of course, for League Two. But
no, exactly. What are they? What are they?
Exactly.
Breaks?
But I tell you what, having spoken to former players of yours, and I'm not going to name names, don't worry. They thoroughly enjoyed playing under you as a manager. Thoroughly enjoyed your training. What they loved the most when it was a team that was in a position that took international breaks was they were done properly. So there was a bit of sun on your back. There was a collective spirit with regards to that. And to a man, and they would say this because footballers are inherently selfish, it always did them good coming off the back of it. That sense of being together, of you saying, I'm the manager, this is what we're doing, I need to get rid of you lot for 4 days because I want a break from you, you want a break from me, see the other side, ready to work. And it always worked.
It does. It's once again, it's not I wouldn't think a great challenge or a difficult problem. It makes sense for them to get away and have a little break when you have that 2 week gap. We had some wonderful trips at Derby and Sheffield United and even at Burton as well when we got the opportunity. It's a long 9-10 months, you know, and it's a slog, and you live in each other's pockets, and you need a break from it now and again. You need some breathing space, and that's all we tried to give them. Tell you what, the results when we came back were always better. Not just the results always, but the physical output and everything was much better when they'd had that break.
We'll tell you what, this has been an absolute pleasure. I mean, Daniel Mann is a man constantly on holiday, so he understands.
Absolutely, yeah. Always got a cocktail in my hand on a lounger.
You look that sort, Daniel.
King of the pina colada is Daniel Mann. And the phone's ringing. Is it yours, Nigel?
No,
it's not your office.
It's not my office. I'm in the training ground, and the chap who runs it, so I don't even answer his phone.
He could be asking for anything. Right, that's a good place to end. Nigel's got a phone call to answer. Daniel Mann's got work to do. Chaps, it's been a pleasure. Nigel, thank you so much for joining us.
Pleasure, David.
Dan the Man, you've been a star, my friend. Thank you to you as well.
Thank you very much, and thank you, Nigel.
Thanks, Dan.
So who on earth was that power calling Nigel Clough? I shall keep you posted, don't worry about that. A big thank you to Nigel, Daniel Mann and Liam Rossini for joining me this week on the podcast. As always, if you've enjoyed it, then please do give us a 5-star rating, press the follow button and share on all of your socials. If you'd like to get in touch, our email address is podcast@efl.com. That's podcast@efl.com. Really rather simple. My name's David Prutton, and I'll see you same time next week for another episode of the official EFL Podcast.